Hi, everybody. It is 3 p.m. on Tuesday, so that means it's time for TAPtalks. Welcome, and I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and is enjoying their Tuesday so far. So just to welcome you here to TAPtalks. This is our platform for bringing you some really awesome arts professionals to talk about their paths to creative careers, specifically for a teen audience. If you're not a teen, you're still welcome, but we're really framing this for our Teen Arts Pass members. So if you're wondering what Teen Arts Pass is, we also call it TAP. It's a program of the arts education organization Urban Gateways, and through TAP, anyone 13 to 19 can get $5 tickets to performances with our 27 partners all around the Chicago area. Of course, given the current situation with COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders in place, there are no performances. So we've been trying to figure out how to stay engaged and creative with teens in our city. And so we're continuing these TAP Talks. We're doing these every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Central here on Instagram Live, hashtag Quarantine Arts Pass. So I'll tell you a little bit about our guest today. Erik Kaiko, he, him, his pronouns, is the Director of Marketing and Communications at Writers Theater, which happens to be a TAP partner. Previously, Erik was the Marketing Associate at New York Theater Workshop, and he was there through a number of exciting productions, including the world premieres of Hadestown by Anaïs Mitchell and Lazarus by David Bowie and Enda Walsh. He's also worked as a company manager and a general manager, and recently co-founded the Asian American theater company Token Theater here in Chicago. He has his bachelor's from Northwestern and an M.F.A. from Columbia University. And so we will welcome in Erik. Let's see. And so we've got some questions lined up thanks to our TAP Teen Council, and a couple that have been submitted in advance via Instagram. But if anybody is joining here and wants to add anything in the comments or question field, please let us know. We are happy to field as many questions as we can today. So welcome, Erik.
Hi, can you hear me? Is this working?
It is.
Yay.
Technology.
Yeah, amazing.
Fantastic. How are you doing today, Erik?
Pretty good. It snowed earlier, which is weird. But the sun's out, so, can't complain that much.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for being our guest here today. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk.
Sorry.
That's okay. And learn a little bit more about you. So can you tell us a little bit in your own words about your current job and what you do?
Yes. So I'm Director of Marketing and Communications at Writers Theater, which is a theater company in Glencoe, which is a couple suburbs north of Chicago. And, it is kind of in the name. I get to supervise the marketing and communications in the theater. And so to me, when I think about marketing, I think of kind of show by show, finding who the right audiences are for each particular production, making sure they're aware of all the details and how to get tickets. And then also marketing the institution as a whole. The theater company, we have seasons. And so apart from each individual play, we also have education and, fundraising and a lot of interesting programming that continues to grow. And then there's the communication side of it, which is also this stuff, to me, that's kind of like outside of direct ticket sales. So when you think of press and publicity and that kind of stuff, that's also all under the marketing and communications umbrella. So not only is it when you think about an e-blast that you get or the website or buying tickets, it's also when you read an article about us or when you come to the theater and you interact with staff at the box office or in the theater itself, that is all sort of under the Director of Marketing position, if that helps.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. So how did you find yourself in this field, in this line of work?
Yeah, I came into the theater industry like many people do. I was kind of a performer first, all throughout school, and then throughout undergraduate as well. And I primarily wanted to be an actor. I wanted to perform, and I did some directing and stuff. And the other side of it, the administrative stuff, the marketing, the producing, the general management, all these jobs that I didn't know were jobs for a long time was totally not on my radar. And then I started to have a desire to sort of, have more control over the stuff I was doing in terms of auditions and roles that were out there for someone like me. And that got me interested in learning more about the administrative side. And so, at one point soon after undergrad, I was not interested in grad school or really that other side of it. But the more I became interested in the other side and all the work that happens behind the scenes to put on a production, all the people that you don't see on stage, that got me interested in researching what was out there in terms of learning more about the arts management side, the really, really cool, glamorous side of theater, contracts and all that, budgeting and all that stuff. I researched a bunch of programs, and I was able to do this program at Columbia in New York. And so I was in New York for a couple of years, and now I'm back in Chicago. And so that's in the nutshell version of how I found myself here in the basement talking to you.
Perfect. So what other jobs have you held in the arts? You alluded to a little bit of it, but like other ways outside of marketing, and if you can fold this answer into why are you currently focused on marketing? Why is that your current area of interest out of all of the things you've done?
Cool. Tell me if I don't get to one of those questions, but I'll try and fold them all in. So apart from sort of acting and directing, and I think I designed a set once in college. It was okay. It wasn't great. Apologies to that production. But aside from those things, I was an intern a lot. I was an intern at a variety of companies. I was an intern at Northlight Theater in Skokie. That was my first internship, where I sort of learned how a theater office operates, which was really cool. The serendipitous thing about that was there was I was checking the chicagoplays.com board or something for opportunities, and I think the only internship that was available was in their literary and dramaturgy program. So sort of by default, I applied for that because the deadline was coming up, and I liked Northlight and it seemed cool. And so I got to do that, and I got to read a lot of plays, which is cool. And I've done internships at similar kind of not-for-profit theater companies like that. And I've also gotten to do internships at some commercial, when you think of Broadway theater, those producing offices as well. And so those, when I mentioned a company manager or a general manager, they are sort of the go-between, I guess, between the producers of a show and all the artists in terms of all their communications when it comes to what it's like to work. And because they are all on a job as well. They're all being employed, and so it's helping kind of facilitate those relationships a lot. And then that kind of, I guess, relates to how I landed in marketing, because marketing was not kind of initially the direction I was going. And I was a company manager for a while, and that involved a lot of things like being the main point of contact between the producers and the advertising company, or the cast and stage management and the director and things like that. And it also involved a lot of things like numbers, like doing daily ticket sales reports and all of that sort of very, very granular information. And then it so happened that a job opened up at New York Theater Workshop in the marketing department that had that numbers focus, that had that budgeting and ticketing and database focus. And so the timing was good. I happened to know of someone who worked at New York Theater Workshop from my graduate school days. And so that was helpful in terms of having that personal connection as well, to say, hey, it was someone who I felt comfortable reaching out to and say, hey, I haven't held a marketing job before. Here's my experience. Should I put myself up for this? And then it worked out. So I was there for about 1.5 years at New York Theater Workshop until this opportunity opened up here in Chicago.
And Chicago is happy to have you. So,
yeah, happy to be here.
So what is the coolest or your favorite or your project that you've worked on in any capacity? Or what are you most proud of in your work?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we were just kind of talking about, there's been a whole bunch of different areas of the theater industry that I've been able to be a part of. So I'm going to cheat and say two different things. One has probably been my current position at Writers Theater, because, I've been lucky enough to sort of grow into this director position where I get to lead a team of people who are all amazing collaborators, and I get to sort of start a design process from the beginning, or you think about the image that's used to market a show, or that kind of thing. So that's been really fun to be able to feel like I have kind of opportunity to put my ideas out there in terms of marketing. And then also, so that's one. And then also kind of, I'll talk more about New York Theater Workshop, to be able to work on shows like Hadestown that started at an off-Broadway theater. And so to do the marketing for that, and to sort of like, you know, we worked on that show art, and we got to look at production images and photos and stuff. And especially when a show goes on to be as successful as Hadestown has, you get to see a lot of that stuff resurface. So it's kind of cool to now see like, oh, I see how what we did off Broadway is influencing what the Broadway production is doing, or something like that. And so, so yeah, those would be my answers to that, I think.
That's super cool. Okay, so time machine.
Yes.
We're gonna go way back.
Uh-oh.
So, do you have any very early arts memories, or like what's one of your first arts memories, and how do you think that may or may not have influenced you in your path?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm gonna say there was a program where I grew up in Connecticut where it was sort of like a weekend music class maybe. But I wasn't going. My older brother was going. It was called Music for Children, and I was probably weekly. Yeah, right. It's all there. And so I remember going to sort of like the final showing or presentation of that, and they were doing The Wizard of Oz, and it was the kind of thing where there were like 5 people who were the Tin Man, and like 3 scarecrows, and 3 Dorothys who kind of like took turns. But I remember watching that and thinking that was very cool. And weird, but cool. And then I think I ended up doing that program, and I don't know how it influenced. I think when you see people like siblings or peers or your friends do something like that, and you see them enjoying themselves, or you see them interact with other young people, and because it kind of looks like playing, right? Like when I was that young, it probably just seemed like a very cool, elaborate game of pretend. And so I think I probably wanted to do that, and also when you're younger, you want to do what your older siblings do anyway. So on the other side of the arts too, my older brother drew a lot. He liked to like draw cartoons and stuff. And so I would sort of just like, mimic kind of what he was into. So that probably accounts for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think something you said in there, I believe it was cool but weird, is maybe a good description for a lot of theater.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it all up right there. So can you tell us a little bit about who you were as a teenager?
Yeah, I think I was very much like a drama club kid. I was into music and theater, so it was pretty arts focused. I think I did a year on the ski team as far as my athletic career. And I also played Little League Baseball like a little bit in grade school, and I quit that. But I did like band and stuff, and I got to do chorus, and the arts were huge, for me. And not only in my regular school, but I mentioned the Music for Children program, and I was able to attend a summer camp, for example, that was kind of arts focused, and that was also really, really big, because you get to be with people who are like you, who aren't sort of like the fringe. If you think of like a high school ecosystem, you're here with people who are all on the fringe, but they're all together. So you all kind of get to know each other on a deeper level than just like, oh yeah, that's Erik, he does all the plays. Like, it's like, because you're all the people who do all the plays. So yeah, I was probably annoying as a teen. Like, I liked theater a lot, and I listened to a lot of cast recordings that I still know the words to. And, music has that ability too to like bring back memories and stuff. So even when, Jesus Christ Superstar is on TV, it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that show at summer camp, and it brings back all these memories and stuff. And so, yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of different stuff in the arts throughout my teen years. And also, I was fortunate enough to not get flack for it, I guess. I had a very sort of supportive family. I had a very supportive friend group as well. I guess ignorance is bliss a little bit. Maybe I don't know what people were saying behind my back, but because of that, it didn't affect me or bring me down. So, but I do count myself lucky that I didn't really encounter a lot of maybe what is stereotypically out there in terms of bullying that might happen in terms of young people who are really, really into the arts and who are passionate about that versus other things.
Yeah. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a teen or when you were younger? Where did you think you were going?
I thought, well, like in high school, I pretty much thought that I was going to be an actor. Like, I figured that was like, I was, in high school, I was a boy who could carry a tune, so I got to do a lot of parts and stuff that, now I wouldn't get cast as. But so I was like, oh yeah, this will be easy and fun. And it's still fun, but it's not easy. It's a job now, right? It is still cool to be able to have a job in the arts sector, but it's still absolutely work. So I don't know. I think I used to want to be a teacher too. I was lucky to have a bunch of really, really great teachers as well, and so yeah, I think that would have been a different path, but that had crossed my mind a little bit too. So yeah. But I have no cool answer. I think my uncle wanted to be a fire truck when he was little. It did not work out for him. But
Well, that's pretty little. That's a very. I hope
right?
I was 15 and saying I want to be a fire truck.
I'll have to ask my mom to make sure, but I don't think so.
Let me break this up a little bit with a completely unrelated series of either or questions.
Great.
So,
Fun.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tortilla chips or potato chips?
Well, I've never had those said that way. Tortilla chips, though. Yeah.
Ability to fly or the ability to read minds?
Ooh. The ability to read minds. Flying seems scary.
See, I think reading minds seems scary, but okay.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. No, I'll stick to my answer though.
That's fair. Summer or winter?
It depends on the day. I think if you were to ask me today, I'll say summer.
Yeah. I'll ask you again when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yes, great, good.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Indoors or outdoors?
Indoors.
That concludes my question.
Did I win? Do you tell me who I am now in terms of a
This is
fictional
not
TV
a
character?
BuzzFeed quiz. Sorry. That I really should have some kind of result at the end of that. Yes,
Yeah, green.
You win the prize. This outlet.
Yeah, just an arbitrary grade is maybe good, or some other metric.
Yeah. Okay. I'll work on that. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for your feedback. Okay. So can you, what is your favorite thing that you've seen, performance-wise? That not necessarily that you worked on or were a part of, but that you have witnessed?
Yeah. There was not a couple years, probably at this point, more than 10 years ago, Chicago Shakespeare Theatre brought a production from the National Theatre of Scotland to Chicago, a production called Black Watch. That was about the Scottish military, and it was in this armory. So it was in this huge kind of almost like a gymnasium, I guess is the best way I can describe it, like the Broadway armory perhaps. And they had bleachers on either side was the seating. So you were across way across the audience on the other side. And it was expansive. It felt big, like an arena almost. And I just hadn't seen a play like that before. It involved movement. It involved dance. It involved this choreography. It involved surprising elements in terms of how they did transitions from one scene to another. And I think to me, if I'd read maybe the description of what the plot was of that story, I don't even know if I remember what it was, to be honest. But what sticks with me are the images and seeing the actors transform from one character to another, seeing all the actors in one scene, and then all of a sudden they have some movement in unison. there was a transition where there was all these soldiers, and they're in a bar and they're playing pool. So there's the big pool table center stage, and you're watching the scene, you're watching the altercation happen, and then all of a sudden, to transition out of this bar in town to the battlefield, you see a knife pop up through the pool table and rip open, and the soldier comes out, and then it goes into this next scene. So then your mind goes, wait, that actor was in that box the whole time? Two, how did they think of that amazing thing to bring you from one totally different location to another? So yeah, and like I said, that was, got to be about 10 years ago or more now, and it sticks with you, that imagery. And so yeah, I think that would probably be number one. There's a lot up there, but that would probably be my number one.
That sounds really cool. I love that. Like, it's those images and the way that it made you feel. And even if you can't remember the plot, it's like, it's just that experience that is so unique with live arts that you don't really get anywhere else, because you're seeing it happen in front of you. So that's really cool. For anybody who has joined us since the intro, this is Tap Talks, Teen Arts Pass, here with Erik Kaiko, the Director of Marketing and Communications at Writers Theater. So we've heard a little bit about it, a lot about your work with Writers Theater. Can you tell us a little bit about Token Theater and what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Token Theater is an Asian American theater company that I co-founded with David Ree here in Chicago. We're a very young company in that we haven't actually done our first production yet. But I was out of this graduate school program that was about producing and theater management and returning back to Chicago. And David and I had been in a couple plays together in the Asian American theater community. And he came to me with this idea of this theater company that he wanted to start. And he had also just done a playwriting course. And so he was also kind of coming from New York to Chicago with all these ideas. And we said, we want to amplify Asian American voices in the Chicago arts community. Let's start a company, like so many people say, in Chicago. And so, what we very quickly realized after we have all the discussions of, what do we call ourselves? What's our mission? What type of theater do we want to do? Now we're at the point where we're like, okay, who are we? Who are our volunteers who are helping us do all the work to get it up? Who's doing all the paperwork to make it possible for us to accept donations as a not-for-profit theater company? Who's writing our company's bylaws? And who's raising the money to be able to kind of put on the art that we want to do? So we are very much in a place where we have, a website, and we have a social media presence, and we have a lot of plans. And we're right in the midst of figuring out where are we in our fundraising campaign and what do we want to do next. We're sort of all eager to produce something, because that, I think, even now talking about it, I'm saying that I co-founded this theater company, and it just feels weird to say that without having done a show yet. So we're all very, very eager to kind of start doing something, but stay tuned. There are plans, but yeah.
Right. Why do you feel that representation is so important in the performing arts, and why are you passionate about it?
That's a great question. I know this maybe feels like a bit of a canned or easy answer, but I think when a young person or an adult or anybody sees someone like themselves, whether it's because that person looks like them or acts like them or has the same mannerisms or reminds themselves of them, when you see that person in a story, you can kind of put yourself in that scenario, and it also lets you know that you're not alone, I guess, in terms of feelings that you might have or frustrations that you might have in terms of what you want to do. Yeah, if every TV show or book or movie or theater production was filled with people who all looked the same, then, someone like me who doesn't look like that can feel excluded and either A, think that world isn't for me, or even worse, think that there's a reason why I'm not worthy of being sort of part of that story, I guess. Yeah, it's not a great answer, but it just comes down to, I think, being able to see yourself as like the hero of a story, especially, I think is important. To see someone like you who's not just the best friend or the romantic partner or the bad guy, but someone who can have a heroic storyline or a more complicated storyline, or it is also good to see yourself as the villain sometimes, but to be able to see yourself as human and to understand that within all of us you have that heroic side and all sides. But yeah.
Can you talk? I'm totally off script at this point. I'm just asking based on what you say. Can you talk about how you view the difference of a play specifically written with an Asian or Asian American character in mind versus a play that is maybe historically not done with an Asian or Asian American cast being done that way? How do you view those two, next to each other? Where do you see the value, or what do you prefer, or what do you want to promote more?
Yeah. So, there still is a great company in Chicago called Silk Road Theater Project. Now it's called Silk Road Rising, I believe. And their mission is to take Asian American or Asian playwrights and put on those stories. So in that example, they do produce a lot of plays with characters that are specifically written to be of Asian or Middle Eastern descent. And those stories are unique to them. But out of that specificity and out of that uniqueness, you can always relate to a child-parent or child-guardian relationship, regardless of the culture. But because you're able to see that and identify with some part of that. And also what that does is it makes you then realize that someone who looks different from you is not that different. But also at the same time, while also honoring the specificity of a culture too. So that's one thing. And Silk Road is a good example of an Asian American playwright. By doing that, they're honoring that individual artist's work and the story that they want to tell. If you look at something like token theater, we wouldn't necessarily only be doing plays by Asian American playwrights, but maybe there's an Asian American director who's always wanted to do Oklahoma, right? Maybe it's with an all Asian cast, maybe it's not. But what are the implications of that? How does that change the dynamics of a story like that when you do things like color conscious casting? For a while too, people talked a lot about colorblind casting, and so much has happened, or rather, things like discrimination or racism have always been there, but things in recent years that have brought that to the forefront, right, makes it dangerous, right, to think about colorblind and to ignore that someone is different from you. Color conscious casting, and using that term, more acknowledges the differences, and in an artistic way opens up doors into nuances that can be brought to the surface in terms of a relationship. Writers Theater just did a new adaptation of A Doll's House, which is hundreds of years old play, and it was directed by Lavina Jadwani, who is a female identifying director of color, and with a multicultural cast as well. And so cast that differently makes you you're able to tell a different story. You're able to, or bring other themes to the forefront by how you cast that. And then of course there's also the factor of just bringing more opportunities to actors of underrepresented groups, whether that is ethnicity, whether that's different ability levels, or what have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. So just to tie back to you mentioned Writers Theater again, and can you, first of all, for those not familiar, why is it called Writers Theater?
Yeah. Baked into the Writers Theater mission is this focus on the word and the artist. So the theater started producing plays in the back of a bookstore in 1992, and from the beginning they were focused on honoring the words that the playwright wrote, and also trying to attract the best talent in town. So imagine seeing a play, let's say it's A Doll's House, but you're 5 feet away from some of the best actors in Chicago, in this amazing, intimate environment. And so to this day, we still kind of use those two branches of the mission, the word and the artist, as a bit of a institutional sort of tagline or mantra. But those are two out of the three sort of pillars of our mission. The playwright's words, putting the artist first and foremost, and also that idea of telling a story in an intimate setting. not a cavernous 1,000-seat theater, but one where even in our newer theater building, in the big theater, you're never going to be more than 30 feet away from somebody on stage. So that's a long-winded answer to why it's called Writers Theater, but that's the origin story, I guess.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Great.
Based on that and your work in the word specifically part of that, who is your favorite playwright?
Ooh, it's interesting. I feel like, just like I don't think I see enough theater nowadays, I also don't read enough plays nowadays. It changes a lot. For a while, I really liked Martin McDonagh. I had seen a really, really awesome production of his play called The Pillow Man. And that was really, really, and that was also a theater experience where I went into it not knowing at all what to expect, which was very, very cool. I think I was in New York and was doing the discount theater line or something, and the line for plays was a lot shorter than the line for musicals. So it was kind of we took a chance, but yeah. So that was really awesome. So until I think of a better answer, I'll stick with that one. But I'll put a comment on Instagram to be like, I thought of a better answer, and this is what it is.
That's
later.
fine. I put you on the spot. It's always favorite questions are always real hard, especially if it's something you're thinking about right now. So okay, we're gonna wrap it up. But if anybody has any questions who is here that they want to throw in the comments or in the question fields at the bottom, let us know. I have two final things to ask. First, back into the time machine, what message would you want to share with teenage Erik?
Circling back, this is kind of bringing it full circle. Circling back to this internship that I had at Northlight, I had a mentor there who was very, I just don't think I'd heard it said as directly as she did, which was, it's okay to do more than one thing. When I was trying to be an actor, I thought that I needed to put sort of 100% of my energy and time behind that. And I think that's still pretty true. That's probably one of the hardest paths you can take, frankly, in the arts industry. But to sort of hear someone say that, like, oh, I can do that, and taking this internship or taking this other job doesn't mean that I'm giving up, or it doesn't mean that I'm shutting that side of myself out. So I would tell teenage Erik that, yeah, it's great that you think you're awesome now, and you have these big dreams, keep those, but also follow that other impulse that is maybe interested in that other piece that doesn't seem like it would feed toward your ultimate goal of wanting to do theater, but you never know how things will come back around and help you later. So
that's great. And the last question I'll ask is if there's any advice you would want to give to any teens who might want to pursue a similar career that you have found yourself in.
Yeah, I would maybe just reiterate that same bit of advice. If you're able to, and if you have an interest in theater or whatever it is, or like, oh, I never thought about what it would be like to do press and publicity for a show, and maybe my high school doesn't really do that, but maybe I can learn more about it and propose something, or don't be afraid to sort of take that initiative and ask for a different path if that is something that's interesting to you, because it's very easy to look at what's immediately in front of you and to pick one of the options, but what is very exciting is if you have thought of something that's not immediately in front of you, and if you can make that happen, I mean, that's what creating art is, right? Is that a good way to wrap it up? Is that a general enough statement?
That's great. No, that's really fantastic. Erik, thank you so much for sharing so much with us today about what your line of work is like, what your unique path has been. I think there's just a lot of valuable information that you've been able to share with our teens and anybody who's tuning in. So thank you very much. And I'm going to kick you out so I can just do my little outro here, and it feels mean, but it's also weird to make you sit here while I do it. So, okay.
Fair. Thanks everybody.
Erik.
Thank you, Tara.
So we'll be posting this video on YouTube if you just joined us near the end. If you were unable to kind of check out our whole video today, we will be posting this as well as the rest of our Tap Talks series on the Teen Arts Pass YouTube channel, and we'll be posting those and making sure it's clear when those are up on our website as well as on our Instagram. So make sure you follow Teen Arts Pass. And we'll be back on Thursday at 3 p.m. The easy way to remember is Teen Arts Pass Tap Talks on days that start with T, at the time that starts with T at 3. I really need mnemonic devices to remember where I'm supposed to be right now because things are all confusing. But thank you for tuning in today. Thank you again to our guest, Erik, and be sure to check us out again on Thursday. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day and stay safe.